welcome everybody. I think the people I'm about to introduce you to now are a very, very good selection of real leaders and people who've done incredible things in their various ways, shapes, and forms across the African continent. And we'll be discussing in particular here the perspective that each of them have on their own industries, as what they think the future of work might be across various industries, spaces, places, platforms in Africa, and in particular in technology, I suppose, is where a lot of our mutual interests are currently to be found. So first and foremost, let me begin by introducing these people to you. They're all well known in their various fields. Amadou Daffé is the CEO and co-founder of Gibea Inc. There she is. Good. Hi, are you there, Gabrielle?
Hi, how are you?
Hi, how are you? Very, very good. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Gabrielle is the CEO of Nabu. And then we've got Nombasa Mawela, who's the founder of Drisa Realtors. Nombasa and Toby Shapshak, I see, the editor-in-chief of Stuff Studios. And it's very good to have all of you here to discuss various things. Deneen is also here. Deneen Erasmus. Deneen is with Farmers Weekly, which is a well-known title in South Africa. And they've also done an enormous amount in changing what they do in South Africa and on the continent. So let's begin. Perhaps this may be a bit cheeky of me, but Toby Shapshak, a couple of years ago, you spoke at TED about where Africa is going, and you made some very interesting points which turn out to be quite prophetic about precisely where technology will take Africa. And we just had Busi say that, in Africa, it's just the beginning. We're a mobile-first continent. Your predictions have come true. Just remind us of what they were and boast a little bit about what you said all those years ago.
Well, thanks for the introduction. Hello, everybody. The thesis that I was proposing, and it's by no means mine, is that innovation in Africa is better because it's innovation out of necessity. It's not solving pie-in-the-sky problems. It's solving very real problems that we all live through. And of course, the mobile device has become the device. It's become both the credit card and the computer of the mobile generation, and mobile money, which of course has blossomed in Africa. Its first great use case in M-Pesa has proved the case, and half of all mobile money services in the world right now, according to the GSMA, are in Africa. So we are a mobile only, continent. I heard Eric Schmidt, when he was still the CEO of Google, speaking at Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, and he gave a talk about how Google was a mobile-first company. Google was a mobile-first company, and what they did was program for mobile before they programmed for desktop. And I thought about it, and I thought, actually, Africa's mobile only. We've never had desktop computers in any meaningful numbers. And that's really what we've seen. So many of the brilliant ideas and brilliant innovations that now ride on the back of M-Pesa. You have layer upon layer upon layer of innovation. It all started with cheaper internet access in Kenya and East Africa. And on the top of that, so much else has been built. But I wanted to facetiously say that the future of work looks very much like it always has if you're a journalist or a technology journalist or anyone who works in the tech space, right? You have a laptop, you can work anywhere, you become used to the drone of noise in the background, or you wear headphones, noise-canceling headphones. And that's really one of the hallmarks, I suppose, of this new generation of working. I have a friend who runs a company who's just been bought by a big American VC firm. And they've never owned offices. They do, they're called netstock.co. They do inventory management, and they can save as much as 10% on people's inventory. That's a lot of money if it's, $10 million or 10 million rand. They've never had offices. They've got people all over the world, Johannesburg, Cape Town, a couple of places in the States, somewhere here, somewhere there, and everybody's always worked from home. And this is a highly successful business that's just, been bought and scaled, based out of everybody's home study. So we see the future of work, and we know that it's that great thing that somebody realized somewhere in the 80s. I think work is not somewhere you go, but it's something you do. And we live in a world where you can do anything anywhere. And what COVID's done is accelerate how we do that.
Well, I'd like to go straight to Nombasa Mawela, who's from Drisa Realtors. And really, Nombasa, you're in a good position to tell us in particular about your industry. But let's just talk about the conversations you've been having with industry peers of yours. How is the real estate market in South Africa different from places like Dubai? And not just in South Africa, but the rest of the continent too.
Hi, Gareth. Thank you so much for the platform.
Thank you.
What I've seen since being based in Dubai and being in the real estate market, I'd say that the pace is what differs. Dubai real estate market is really fast-paced. You know, a deal is clinched within a week. We don't have the whole, it's 3 months for a property to be transferred to the new owner's name. You clinch a deal, you sign, speak to work on the next deal. So I don't know where I would say maybe it is technology, as we are speaking on that today, that is maybe keeping us back in Africa. But yeah, that's where we're lacking. Deals take much longer in Africa. I don't know, maybe it could be banks or whatever other security background checks that take place in South Africa or in Africa actually. But in Dubai, everything is fast paced. So I'd say that is the main difference. Apart from that, there's nothing much outside of the pace. Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about money and property is obviously a form of that, I mean, really, Gabrielle, you're probably the best place to speak about financial services and what's going on the continent from that point of view and how that might have changed, in particular since COVID, but over the last few years.
I think one of the things that I feel very strongly about is that the pandemic has accelerated the need for digital money and digital services. I think different African countries have challenges which are not of their own making. And so now we see an opportunity where it is very clear, I think, to most of us how interconnected we all are, whether we're in the continent or abroad. And so our company's particular mission is to ensure that the various African countries are connected on a global scale and that they have that payment infrastructure to do that. So if I want to tie that back to the future of work, there are pluses and negatives in the sense that we're a fintech startup all day. We only know how to work online, but working online for 18 months in a pandemic can test even the strongest of minds. So
Right.
I think what I wanted to say there is that, yes, we believe in everything digital, but always a balance.
And Deneen, I mean, from your point of view, content has always been something that people consume. It's just the way that they consume it that's probably changed. Maybe you disagree with that too. But a title like Farmers Weekly, which certainly in South Africa has had a very long and prestigious history and an audience, a readership that has been loyal from the get-go. You've changed behavior there. I mean, that's no small achievement.
Hi, Gareth, and hello to the other panelists. Well, yes, just to answer the question and then maybe get to some other points. Absolutely. So it's just we've had to adapt to the way in which our audience wants to receive their information. So while we still have a very loyal readership that enjoys the print magazine, the majority of our audience does now sit online and would rather access the magazine digitally or access information directly via the website. And I think that's been really one of the great strengths and one of the great positives when it comes to technology and the future of work. It's how easy it is for anyone anywhere to access a massive amount of information. So you can be a farmer in the middle of a rural area in Botswana, and you can get advice straight from one of the top farmers in South Africa just by going onto our website. So I think that access of information and the way in which the media now shares information online has made it much easier for people to get advice in real time that can really help them in their businesses and whatever it is they do. But I just want to go back and maybe this, to an extent, touches also on what Gabriela has said, to also acknowledge the limitations of technology. And when we look at the future of job creation and careers in Africa, if we just look at using a cell phone or a smartphone or any device to trade with and to do transacting with, it's easy and it works well, and we've got a lot of tools that people can use for that. But while you can certainly sell your produce, say if you produce cabbages on the one side of the country, you can sell it within a matter of seconds to someone on the other side of the country. But then the problem is getting it there. And I think while it's good to have technology, and while it's certainly helping many people in Africa to make a great leap forward in terms of their job prospects, we cannot forget that needs to be supported by physical infrastructure, by roads, by railways, by all types of logistics. And without that, a lot of the digital technology that we now have will have a limited impact.
Well, all of this obviously represents huge opportunity, and I'd like to ask the three women in this conversation and on this panel what opportunities there are for women in your various industries, in your various areas of interest, because I think that there is a huge demand among the people of this continent to find meaningful, gainful, and inspiring appointments and jobs in various industries. And maybe it's time also for us to acknowledge that there is this gap to be filled, and we need good people. There are great people in Africa who can fill these gaps. What prospects are there in, first of all, yours, Gabrielle, in the financial services technology sector, in yours with Drisa Realtors, and also in Farmers Weekly and places like that, content businesses? What are the opportunities particularly for women? Nombasa, do you want to start?
Okay, I'll start. Firstly, I think we all know the real estate sector has always been male-dominated. We slowly penetrating the industry as women, and we are there to support women that are interested in entering the industry. I, for one, for example, my entire team here at Drisa Realtors is females, starting from the admin to even my driver. My entire team, I've empowered women, and it's been intentional that I do that because I've seen that the industry is male dominated, but I'm also very motivated into bringing people, women especially, into the industry to show them that, listen, we are also here and we can actually take over the space. And even though I'm based in the UAE, I have formed partnerships with realtors in Africa, especially, not just South Africa. I've got partnerships in Nigeria. I've signed partnerships with various women that are there who have inboxed me. That's how it started. It started with an inbox to say, hey, listen, I'm interested in real estate. I'm based in Abuja, for example. I'm based in, for example. What opportunities are there for me out there in the world, outside of Africa? And I've gone out to say, listen, Africans right now are entering the UAE. We one of the biggest investors right now, especially in the real estate space. You bring me investors that are interested. Let me teach you about the industry here, and let's grow each other. And we share commission, and that's how we've worked. So
and Deneen, from a content point of view, are there lots of jobs available? Are there places for women in business like yours, content businesses, platforms?
Gareth, there are no jobs particularly for women. All the jobs are open for women.
Right.
So, I think in my editorial team, more than half of the people are women, and all of the top positions are filled by women. And unlike Mombasa, I can't say that that was intentional, that we wanted to put women in those positions. They were just the best people for the job. So, so absolutely, there is space for women, but not. It's not. From my side, at least, it's not a case of creating opportunities, particularly for women, because all of the opportunities are open for women as well.
Right. Well put. Gabrielle, in financial services, is there quite a lot of opportunity there?
Well, I want to echo what Janine is saying. I mean, obviously there are jobs, plentifully, but I think for financial services, it's very well known that historically it is very male dominated. Same for the tech space. So if you talk about a hybrid like us, which is the financial technology space, the fintech space, you have a very strange dynamic where that space tends to be very venture capital driven, and the venture capitalists are men, and so they tend to support men, and so you don't really see a lot of female CEOs, and so the women who are equally qualified and equally skilled, I find, are reluctant to apply for leadership positions in particular. So that's something that I would really like to see more of. In our organization, we definitely make a proactive attempt to have a very heavy gender bias, but at times it is difficult because the women feel they're not going to be selected. The job will go to a man, and I think that's something that maybe people don't think about enough.
So let's look more generally at the challenges in each of your respective areas of interest, and what Africa provides as opportunities. I mean, Deneen, you just mentioned how, for example, you could buy and sell agricultural produce in a country, and it can be done digitally and it can be done instantaneously. But there are still issues around delivery in certain areas. I mean, are we able to exploit these opportunities and grow businesses from them effectively enough? Or is there still quite a lot of red tape? Is there still quite a lot of confusing and not necessarily clear labor and commercial practice that inhibits some of the growth which may be possible? And perhaps we'll stick to Nombasa's category in property for the moment, realty. How do you find that at Drisa Realtors? Do you find it's easy to do business, or are there still quite a lot of things that get in the way and make it difficult for you to get those gaps and make the best use of them? Nombasa?
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, as I said, because it's a previously male-dominated industry, and it involves a lot of visiting sites and doing things that were not particularly seen as very female, especially in the UAE. So the gap, it's been difficult, showing the people there that actually a female can be on site, and we can be in a construction site, we can oversee what is happening. So those are just some of the basic challenges that we've had. Outside of that, I'd say not really. People are trusting.
And sorry, more especially the opportunities that you've seen. I mean, Africa is obviously a place where, as Toby said at the beginning, there are many problems to be solved. Does that represent, in your line of work, does that represent perhaps opportunities for development? We talk about development of property, and in Africa, there's a huge shortage of housing in urban areas, for example. Do you see that as a place that there's enormous potential for growth, for example?
I'd say there is potential for growth, but at the same time, Africa being I'll speak of South Africa, for example, which is the country that I know best, especially in this industry. It is a place of growth, but obviously being a third world country, spending is limited, and we don't really, when people cut back, you'll see with COVID, for example, real estate is one of the industries that were hardly hit during the pandemic. So when it comes to property in South Africa, for example, we do have that that hit where when people need to cut back, it will be one of the industries that are highly hit, especially the commercial side and the high-end side of real estate. Yeah.
Toby, you
Can
and your
can I add
business.
something
Yes, of
about
course.
the construction industry, in which I actually have a bit of a family interest? My mother was the 14th woman architect in South Africa. She was the first person to graduate things from Pretoria University's engineering faculty, the first person who was English, a woman, and was Jewish. And I've literally been on building sites my whole life, and I can just echo what you say, Nombasa. There is no reason for women not to be involved in the whole construction process. My late brother was a builder, property developer, in the words of the day. And when he died, I ran his construction company. And I agree with you. My mother is living proof that you can be on site and do stuff. So I've seen that in my life, and my mother's 93 now. So, it's great that trailblazers like her and like you are keeping everybody real. Sorry, Gareth, you were about to ask a much more interesting question.
Not at all. I appreciate your comment, because I think a lot of people need to hear these stories. They're not all stories about just our generation, and there are these brave pioneers who've gone ahead of us and done quite incredible things. But Toby, you spend a lot of your time looking at technological innovation. There's a huge hunger for this information in Africa, and we now, because of the mobile devices, which all of us carry, we're now able to access information at an unprecedented rate. Do you think that because of that, there are more and more people who are finding, let's say, more informal channels of educating themselves and making themselves available in the job market? I mean, we talk about the future of work, but really, I think credentialism is probably going to become less and less important in places like Africa, where we just want people who are experts, whether they are educated experts or streetwise experts in their fields. And we have plenty of streetwise people, don't you agree?
I totally agree, and in fact, there's a brilliant test case of what you've just proposed, which is Andela, the great, originally Kenyan, but now it has offices in Kampala, it has offices in Kenya. It is a brilliant example of young, talented developers getting work anywhere around the world, and originally they were based in these various offices in the capitals of these three different countries, Nigeria, Kenya, yes. And anyway, so yes, Uganda, sorry. And what's happened is that they have been, because of COVID, everybody's been working from home, and it turns out to be a business model that works for them as well. I mean, the last round of investments, I think they got was $100 million. Mark Zuckerberg's foundation, him and his wife's foundation, are investors. The first place he went to, in one of the places he went to in Lagos was Andela. The first place he went to was the famous CC Hub. So there's lots of talent, and I think what's really fantastic is that talent is being acknowledged, and talent is getting opportunities. That's what's really fantastic. Yes, excuse me, I have a small shack who's eating supper. This is another hallmark of working from home.
Yeah. Just to dwell on that for a second, I know one of the guys, Lungisa, who's one of the founders of Yoko, which is an incredible technology platform, allows people to do card transactions from pretty much anywhere, and even a 3G or signal, which is much less powerful. And it's really revolutionized the way that even a small-scale artist on the side of the road is able to sell their wares now without having to deal in cash only. And these kinds of things are precisely what Toby hinted at earlier. They're the products of necessity rather than the products of luxury. And while in many countries it's really important to have the latest generation technology, we manage here with sometimes stuff that's not necessarily as up to date in terms of the latest model of something, but people are making do, and they're doing very well out of that. They're able to make networks of customers, sell their wares online. People are able to send each other money. I mean, Gabrielle, there's so much opportunity in that, isn't there?
It's huge. I know we're running out of time, but it is massive. And I think the only thing I did want to say, just as a soundbite, is people think, at least some people think about Africa as risk, and they don't understand the extent of the opportunity. And so in the last 12 months, we've seen an adoption of digital assets, for example, explode by 1,200%. That's unprecedented. And so if we talk about digital money and we talk about connectivity, Africa is the Garden of Eden. And I really hope that more entrepreneurs and traditional players see this digital revolution and support it and help the economies to grow.
Well, I'm going to give Deneen the last word then on this. Deneen, what do you see as the opportunities, and what do you see as the biggest challenges for our continent?
Yeah, I'm just going to echo what Gabrielle said. I think everywhere you go, at least everywhere where I've been in Africa, you see the most brilliant entrepreneurs. And I think that's what's really exciting, is that the digital age that we're living in, and with the tools that we have, it really does support entrepreneurs to build their businesses and sort of to start smaller businesses, which I think is very important in Africa. So I think that's a real opportunity to see more entrepreneurs start their small businesses using these tools. When it comes to the challenges, definitely the red tape that there is still in terms of trading in Africa. Hopefully, the Africa Continental Free Trade Area Agreement is going to help solve some of that really, really debilitating red tape that still exists in terms of African countries and nations trading with each other.
I think that's a very good note to end it on. I know that you've been having a couple of connection issues there, Nombasa, and I know Toby was in and out as well, but I appreciate everybody's time on this panel. So a big thank you to all of our participants and for all the great comments and questions that we got. Thank you all very, very much.